The sound of silence. The night was supposed to be perfect. The Grand Theater in downtown Los Angeles was packed with people, journalists, influencers, producers, critics, and fans. The air buzzed with camera clicks, whispers, and the soft hum of anticipation. It was the premiere of a highly anticipated film, and all eyes were on the main stars. Ana de Armas had been preparing for this night for weeks. She had memorized her speech, practiced every line in front of the mirror, and even rehearsed her smiles. Her gown shimmered under the lights like it held a galaxy. She looked every bit the star. But inside, her heart was trembling. As she stepped onto the stage, a spotlight followed her, and the applause began. But it wasn't kind. Scattered claps mixed with giggles, murmurs, and a few loud whispers that weren't even whispers. "What is she even doing here?" someone said near. "The front row." "She's no good without a man beside her," another voice laughed. Ana heard them. Every word felt like a pin poking her skin. She looked toward the crowd, forcing a smile, trying to rise above it. She opened her mouth to speak. Her voice trembled. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she said, her voice soft but brave. But before she could go on, someone in the back let out a mocking laugh, loud enough for everyone to hear. It was cruel, empty laughter, the kind that doesn't hide behind a joke. Ana paused. Silence followed. Her eyes searched the crowd, not for the one who laughed, but for something else, something to hold on to. Strength, maybe. Her hands clutched the sides of the podium. Her throat tightened. And then, from behind the curtains, someone stepped forward. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. Keanu Reeves. The moment he appeared, the energy in the room shifted. Whispers stopped. Phones went down. Backs straightened. He walked slowly across the stage, not toward the microphone, not toward the spotlight, but toward Ana. And when he reached her, he didn't speak. He just stood beside her, silent, solid, present. Ana turned her head slowly. Her eyes met his. He gave a small nod. Nothing more, but it said everything. "I'm here." Her lips trembled, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from the quiet power of being seen, truly seen, by someone who didn't need to speak to protect her. And suddenly, the crowd was quiet. Keanu looked out at the audience, not with anger, not with pride, but with stillness. A stillness that held weight. The kind that made people think. The kind that made people feel shame. The quiet, heavy kind, for how they had treated someone standing in bravery. Ana took a breath. "When I was younger," she continued, her voice steadier. "Now, I was told I wasn't good enough. Not for Hollywood, not for big roles, not for big stages. But I kept going, because stories matter, and I believe every woman deserves a chance to tell hers." A few people clapped, then a few more. Then the room rose in applause, but Keanu never clapped. He never moved. He just stayed beside her. When they walked off the stage together, hand in hand but without a word, Ana whispered to him. "Why did you do that?" He replied in a voice only she could hear. "Because you stood there alone when no one else would. And no one deserves to face silence with silence." Ana didn't know it yet. But that moment would change everything. Not just for her, but for people watching from all over the world. Something had shifted, not in noise, but in the quiet strength of one man standing beside a woman who refused to be broken. And deep down, Ana knew the world was watching. And this time it was listening. The storm after the silence, the next morning, the world had changed, but not in the way Ana expected. When she woke up, her phone screen was flooded. Messages, missed calls, unread notifications. Every app had dozens of alerts. The moment she opened her social media, her hands froze. There were videos, clips of last night, clips of her standing on stage, trying to speak while people laughed, clips of Keanu walking out, saying nothing, doing nothing, just standing beside her, Some called it the most powerful moment in award ceremony history. Others mocked it. He saved her. Some tweets read, but others weren't so kind. Why did she need saving? It looked staged. This is Hollywood drama. Ana stared at the comments, and each word felt like cold water. She had thought the worst part was over when she walked off that stage. She had been wrong. She put her phone down. Outside her window, the city was moving like always. Cars passing, horns honking, life going on. Inside, her world felt like it had stopped. A knock on the door broke the silence. It was her assistant. "Maria, you need to see this," Maria said, holding a tablet. Ana hesitated. "Is it more hate?" Maria shook her head. "No, it's different." Ana took the tablet. On the screen was a video, not from the red carpet or the ceremony, but from a hospital room. A young girl, no more than 10 years old, was lying in bed with tubes in her arms. Her mother was holding her hand. The girl was smiling. On the table beside her was a phone playing the video of Ana on stage. In a small, weak voice, the girl said, "She's so brave. She didn't run away." Ana felt her chest tighten. Maria whispered, "Her name is Lily. She's been battling cancer for 3 years. She watched your speech 5 times today. She says you made her feel strong." Ana sat down. No applause could match what she felt in that moment. No award could compare. She had never known her silence, her pain, could mean something to someone fighting their own storm. Later that evening, Keanu called. His voice was gentle, like always. "Hey." "How are you holding up?" Ana exhaled. "I thought I was okay. But the internet is not kind." Keanu was quiet for a second. "They're loud, Ana. But loud doesn't always mean right." She didn't answer right away. Then she asked, "Why didn't you say anything on stage?" He paused, then said, "Because the world already talks too much. Sometimes silence can speak louder. I wanted them to listen to you, not me." Ana closed her eyes. That answer didn't surprise her. Keanu had always been like that, quiet, thoughtful, present. "You think I did the right thing?" she asked. "You stood there, even when they tried to crush you." "Yes, you did the right thing." That night, Ana couldn't sleep. Not because of the hate, but because of the little girl in the hospital, because of what her pain might have meant to someone else. So she did something unexpected. She posted a video, just her. No makeup, no lights, no script. "I was scared last night," she began. "Not because people laughed, but because I thought I was alone. But I wasn't. Not really. I had a friend beside me. And now, I know there are more of you out there." To the little girl who said I made her feel strong, "I want you to know, you made me feel the same." The video went viral. But this time, it was different. People weren't laughing anymore. They were listening. Keanu sent her a message. "You just did more with your truth than 1,000 voices ever could." Ana replied, "Thank you for standing in silence when I couldn't stand on my own." The storm was still out there, but Ana had found her anchor, and something was changing, not just in Hollywood, but in the hearts of people who had once forgotten how to treat each other with kindness. Voices in the quiet the days after Ana's video felt different. The world that once echoed with judgment began to speak with something softer. Reflection. News anchors who had once only praised fashion and red carpets were now talking about kindness, resilience, and silent support. Radio shows played clips of Ana's video between songs. Even late-night comedians, who were known for sarcasm, paused long enough to say something genuine. But with the growing support came growing pressure. Ana sat in a studio meeting with her team. Producers, agents, managers, all gathered around. A table cluttered with schedules, contracts, and coffee cups. "We need to ride this wave," said her manager. "You're trending globally. People want more. Interviews, brand deals, maybe even a book deal." Ana stared at the papers in front of her. I didn't do any of this to go viral, she said softly. We know, someone replied. But now that it's happened, we need to move fast. Ana looked around the room. It felt loud again, not because anyone was yelling, but because they were talking about her like she wasn't even there. Her thoughts drifted to the girl in the hospital, to Keanu's quiet nod, to the silence that had carried more meaning than 1,000 claps. I need to visit someone first, she said. They didn't understand. But she did. 2 days later, Ana walked into the children's hospital. No cameras, no press, just her and a small bouquet of purple flowers. When she entered Lily's room, the little girl's eyes lit up like stars. Her mother gasped, and tears welled in her eyes. I brought you something, Ana said, kneeling beside the bed. But I think you've already given me more than I ever could. Lily giggled. Her voice was weak but filled with joy. My friends. Didn't believe I knew you, she said. But I told them you were my hero. Ana smiled. I think you're mine. They talked for hours, about movies, about dreams, about how scary it is to be stared at. Ana listened more than she spoke, and for the first time in days, she felt peace. When she stood to leave, Lily grabbed her hand. Thank you for not pretending, she whispered. Some people pretend to care. You don't. Ana hugged her gently, holding back tears. Because you taught me not to. As she walked back to her car, the sun was setting, painting the sky in soft orange and pink. The city lights blinked on slowly, one by one. Her phone buzzed. A message from Keanu. Saw the video of you walking into the hospital. That little girl will never forget today. Ana smiled. Neither will I, she typed back. A few days later, Ana was invited to a panel about women in film. She almost said no. The stage still scared her. The memory of the laughter still echoed in her mind. But then she remembered Lily's words. Thank you for not pretending. Ana didn't want to hide anymore. So she went. The theater was smaller this time, more intimate. The panel had other actresses, some new, some legends. The moderator asked about awards, fame, box office numbers. But when it was Ana's turn to speak, she paused. Then she said, I want to talk about fear. The room went quiet. People think actors are fearless. We're not. We just learn how to hide it. But I don't want to hide it anymore. She looked at the audience, not through them, but into them. A little girl in a hospital showed me what real strength looks like. And a quiet friend reminded me that silence can be a shield, not a weakness. Later, after the panel ended, Ana was walking toward the exit when an older woman stopped her. Her eyes were kind, but tired. She had a cane and wore a coat that looked like it had been through too many winters. Thank you, the woman said softly. My daughter was bullied out of drama school. She stopped acting. Tonight, she called me and said she wants to try again. Because of you. Ana felt her throat tighten. She nodded. Sometimes words were too small for moments like that. Outside, as she stepped into the night, a soft breeze touched her skin. She looked up at the stars, and just then, she realized something. The stage had never been the enemy. It was the silence that followed cruelty. And now, she had learned how to fill that silence with something stronger. The return to the stage, Ana stood backstage, her hands cold despite the warmth of the room. This was not a film premiere. This was not a panel. It was something far more personal, a charity gala performance. A night to raise awareness for children, fighting terminal illness. Ana had been invited to deliver the opening speech, not as a celebrity, not as a star, just as herself. As she looked at the curtain that separated her from hundreds of guests, her heart pounded. The memory of that first night, the mocking voices, the scattered laughter, the weight of shame, tried to crawl back into her mind. Her throat tightened. Her hands trembled. But she wasn't the same woman anymore. She had visited hospital rooms, held the hands of mothers who hadn't slept in weeks, seen children who had every reason to give up, and still chose joy. They had looked at her not as someone perfect, but as someone who dared to stand, even when she was broken. She thought of Lily, her smile, her voice, her honesty, and she thought of Keanu, his silence, his strength, his friendship. Ana closed her eyes, took one deep breath, and walked out into the light. The applause was gentle this time, respectful, sincere, not loud, but warm. People clapped not because she was famous, but because she had become something rare in their world. Someone real. She stepped up to the microphone. Her eyes scanned the crowd. In the front row, she saw doctors, nurses, caregivers. Behind them, children in wheelchairs, mothers, fathers, families with tired eyes and hopeful hearts. "I want to start with the truth," she said. The room went still. "I almost didn't come tonight, because fear still lives in me. It doesn't go away just because people cheer louder. But I'm learning that fear doesn't mean failure. It means I still care." She paused. "A while ago, I stood on a stage and people laughed, not because I told a joke, but because they didn't believe I belonged there. And for a moment, I didn't believe it either." Her voice cracked, but she didn't stop. And then, someone stood beside me. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. His silence told the room, "You don't get to tear people down." And that silence gave me my voice back. There was no applause yet. Only quiet breaths. Eyes locked. "Honor. Tonight, I'm not here because I'm an actress. I'm here because I met children who taught me what courage really looks like, who reminded me that even when we're afraid, we can still show up. We can still try." And then she smiled. "And that's what I'm doing, trying, with all of you." The room rose in applause, not in a wave, but like the tide, slow, strong, steady. After the speech, Ana stepped down, heart still racing. A familiar voice called out, "You had them the moment you walked out." She turned. Keanu stood a few steps away, wearing a simple black jacket, hands in his pockets, eyes kind. "You came," she said, surprised. "You thought I wouldn't. I wasn't sure." He gave her that soft, familiar smile. "You forget. I stood beside you once. I'll do it again if you need me." Ana felt her eyes sting. "Thank you." They walked together to a quiet corner of the hall. Keanu looked at her. "You know, you didn't just get your voice back. You gave others theirs." She looked at him. "You think so?" "I know so," he said. "You're not just surviving the storm anymore. You're teaching others how to walk through it." Just then, a young woman approached, holding the hand of her little brother. He had no hair and held a small toy soldier. "Miss Ana," the girl said softly. "He wanted to meet you. He watches your video every day before his treatments." Ana knelt down. The boy looked up at her with wide eyes. "Were you scared?" "Yes," she said gently. "But it's okay to be scared." "But you didn't run." "And neither will you," she whispered. They hugged. After the gala, Ana and Keanu sat outside under a quiet night sky. No cameras, no red carpet. Just two friends, sharing silence. "You ever think silence might be a kind of language?" She asked. Keanu nodded. "It's the only one some people truly understand." Ana looked up at the stars. "You taught me how to speak it." He looked over at her. "You taught me why it matters." That night, as she returned home, she looked at her reflection. Not in the mirror, but in the faces of those who had thanked her. The children, the parents, the nurses, the tired, the brave. And in their eyes she saw someone she hadn't seen in a long time. Herself, No longer broken, just becoming. The day the world listened, Ana woke up to silence. Not the kind that came from fear, but the peaceful kind. The kind that fills your room like soft sunlight after a storm. It had been 3 weeks since the charity gala. 3 weeks since she stood on a stage and shared her pain not as a script, but as her truth. And in those weeks, something strange and beautiful had begun to happen. People had stopped looking at her like a movie star and started seeing her as something more. Something human. She received letters. Not fan mail. Not praise. But real, handwritten letters. Pages filled with stories from people who had also been laughed at, silenced, doubted. People who had once hidden their pain, but now felt brave enough to speak. A letter from an old teacher who had been mocked for her stutter. A letter from a young boy whose classmates never let him read out loud. A letter from a woman who had survived an abusive marriage and said Ana's words made her feel less invisible. Each letter, folded gently, carried weight and grace. Ana read every single one, and one morning, sitting beside a window, she cried. Not because of pain, but because of how kindness can echo, even through brokenness. Later that week, Ana's team informed her she had been nominated for a humanitarian award, not for a film, not for a role, but for impact. "Do you want to attend?" her assistant asked gently. Ana looked out the window. "Only if Keanu's coming," she said with a smile. And he did. On the night of the ceremony, the hall was dressed in gold and deep blue. Soft lights fell like rain across the stage. This time, there was no fear, only gratitude. Ana sat beside Keanu in the front row. He wore the same black jacket, quiet, grounded, as always. When her name was called, she stood, not as someone receiving applause, but as someone remembering why she started. She walked to the stage slowly, remembering every step that had led her here. Every laugh, every tear, every child. Every moment of doubt that had turned into strength. She took the microphone. "This award isn't mine," she said softly. "It belongs to every person who has ever been laughed at for simply standing where they had the right to be." She paused, looking at the crowd. We live in a world where loud voices often win, where cruelty is masked as humor, where kindness is seen as weakness. But I learned something from someone very special. Her eyes found Keanu. That silence is not empty. It's full of power. When someone stands beside you without needing to speak, you feel less alone. And that is the loudest form of love. The crowd rose in a standing ovation, but Keanu didn't stand. He simply smiled. He didn't need the spotlight. He never did. After the ceremony, Ana and Keanu stepped outside. The night was cool. The stars were out. They walked without words for a while. Then Ana turned to him. "You've always been the quiet one," she said, "but you've changed the course of my life." Keanu looked up at the sky. "Sometimes we just need to show up," he said. "Not fix things, not explain them. Just be there." Ana nodded. "I used to think I needed to prove something to be enough," she whispered. "Now I know I just needed to stop hiding." "And now?" Keanu asked. "Now I want to help others stop hiding too." And she did. Ana started a quiet movement. No billboards, no viral hashtags, just a simple idea. Be there for someone. Not with words, but with presence. People began to share their own silent acts of kindness. A boy sitting beside the new kid in the cafeteria without saying a word. A teenager walking with his classmate who stuttered, not correcting, just listening. A stranger standing next to a crying mother at a bus stop, no questions asked. Ana's story had become their story, a story not of fame, but of healing. Not of noise, but of meaning. And the world began to remember something it had forgotten. How powerful it is to simply stand beside someone when they need you most. The kindness that stayed. A year had passed. A year since that night on the stage. A year since the silence. A year since Ana de Armas stood trembling behind a microphone, surrounded by laughter. And Keanu Reeves walked out without a word and changed. Everything. Much had changed since then. Not just for Ana, but for people she would never meet. Children had written essays in schools about courage. Parents had used her story to teach empathy to their sons and daughters. Even film studios had quietly changed the way they treated young actors, because somewhere they had felt the shame of that night too. But for Ana, the biggest change had nothing to do with movies or awards. It was the way she now looked at herself, no longer as someone who had to earn her worth, no longer as someone whose silence meant weakness, but as someone who had faced cruelty and still chose to return, not with bitterness, but with purpose. She had launched a program called Stand Beside Me, not a charity, not a campaign, just a promise. Once a month, she visited places most celebrities forgot, children's homes, addiction centers, shelters for women and girls. She didn't give long speeches. She didn't sign autographs. She just showed up. She sat with people who felt invisible, and she let them talk, or not talk. But she was there. Present, one afternoon, she sat on a bench outside a rehabilitation center. Beside her was a woman named Claire, who had survived things most people wouldn't speak about. Claire smoked quietly, staring ahead. After a while, she whispered, "People always want me to tell my story." Ana said nothing. "But no one just sits with me," Claire added. Ana nodded. "I'm here." They sat in silence for a long time. But it wasn't empty, it was honest. And when Ana left that day, Claire said something she would never forget. "You didn't try to fix me. You made me feel seen, and that was enough." That night, Ana called Keanu. She still called him when something touched her deeply. He answered, as always. "You'd be proud," she said. "I already am," he replied. "You know," she said with a smile in her voice, "people think you saved me that night. Did I? Maybe you did, maybe not, but you reminded me that I didn't have to fight alone." Keanu's voice was quiet. "We all need someone to stand beside us, even if they say nothing." Ana paused, then asked, "Do you ever feel like people don't hear what really matters?" "Every day," he replied. "But that's why we keep showing up." Ana looked out her window. The moon was full. The city was calm. "I used to think the world changed when we shouted louder," she said. "But now I think it changes when we listen better." "Exactly," Keanu said. "And you made people listen." A soft silence followed. Not uncomfortable, just peaceful. Ana whispered, "Thank you for standing beside me." Keanu answered, "Thank you for standing anyway." Months later, Ana was invited to speak at an international peace conference. It was unexpected. She wasn't a political leader or activist. She wasn't even the keynote speaker, but they wanted her to close the event with a message of compassion. She stood in front of world leaders, activists, teachers, soldiers, students, and this time, her hands didn't tremble. She looked out at the room and said, "I once stood on a stage and people laughed. I wanted to run, but someone stood beside me. He didn't defend me, he didn't argue, he just stayed. And in that moment, I learned that kindness doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be real." She paused. "We don't need more heroes. We need more humans. People who don't try to fix you. They just refuse to leave you behind." A quiet fell across the hall. Somewhere, a tear rolled down a face that hadn't cried in years. Ana smiled gently. "We change the world not by shouting, but by showing up." The applause didn't come fast, but it came deep, like something inside the room had softened. After the speech, as she walked down the aisle, someone touched her shoulder. A young man with a nervous smile said, "I was there that night, in the audience." I laughed. I don't even know why. Maybe I wanted to fit in. I just want to say, I'm sorry. Ana looked at him with warmth, not anger. Thank you for telling me, she said. But I already forgave you. He stood frozen as she walked away, lighter than before. In the years that followed, Ana continued her quiet path. She made more films, yes. But she never forgot the silence that had shaped her, or the friend who stood beside her without saying a word. Keanu and Ana remained close. They never spoke often, but when they did, it mattered. Sometimes kindness doesn't end with a grand speech. Sometimes it stays, like a shadow that never leaves your side, like a silence that means, I'm here. And because of that one silent moment on stage, when the world laughed and he stood, millions learned that you don't have to be loud to be powerful. You just have to stand and stay.